us for in such a difficult time for the world as well as Georgia. So our panel and our discussion today, within the very short period of time, it's like a 50 minutes we have the timeline for this session, will be devoted to the digital solutions, digital financial solutions. And we have very good and very interesting group of speakers within this panel. I'll try to introduce each of them and then give them the floor to discuss and to talk on very interesting topic regarding the digital solutions and especially the cybersecurity perspective for the digital solutions. Our first speaker will be Mr. Natan Avidan, which is the CEO and the founder of the Kernolab, and he's a fintech visionary, mostly focused within the blockchain technologies, and he currently, unfortunately, cannot join for obvious reasons our offline sessions, but definitely he's online and he's gonna deliver a talk right now. After him will be Mr. Nikoloz Gagua, who is the Deputy Minister of the Finance of Georgia, and I will introduce all the other speakers just briefly, and after we'll follow within them the biographies. Mr. David Papuashvili from the National Bank of Georgia, and Ms. Natia Gvazava from Identomat. Now I will give the possibility to Mr. Natan Avidan to have a brief 5-7 minutes talk regarding the digital financial solutions. Mr. Avidan. While we're waiting for him, I might just emphasize the importance of the digital solutions within the currently, of course, within all this pandemic and the global lockdown within our country as well as in the whole world. As we know, the financial industry has undergone significant changes within this lockdown period, and of course, we have seen some of the countries and many of the countries how they changed the legislation within this pandemic just to allow the financial institutions to deliver more and more services online. And that's why it's very interesting time of the what we have now. But on the other hand, from my perspective, as I represent the Georgian Information Security Association and I represent the information and cybersecurity field, from my perspective, it's much interesting from me that how the cybersecurity area of this and how the financial solutions care about the cybersecurity as they care their functionality and their main services. So that's very interesting and they're very important point of view, and very interesting to hear from your side, from Georgian perspective, and as well as from the regulatory perspective with Mr. David's talk, as well as from the governmental side with Mr. Nikoloz, and from Ms. Natia as well, from her experience within the state agencies, especially the National Bank and financial institution, but now from the private business and from very interesting digital solutions provider company. So it will be very interesting, but we are still waiting for our first speaker, who we think will be ready in a minute. We hope for that. So it will be very interesting, but we are still waiting for our first speaker, who we think will be ready in a minute. We hope for that.
Hello?
Good afternoon, Mr. Avidan.
Hello.
Okay, so we did a very brief introduction of you as well as the other speakers. So the importance of the cyber security within the digital solutions and digital financial solutions. So it will be very interesting from your perspective to hear your insight and your view on the of the new like the recently have been what the pandemic and what the lockdown brought into the digital financial solutions. So go ahead, the floor is yours.
So first of all, thanks for having me online. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it in person due to the same reason as you just mentioned, but I'm really excited to be here and discuss the topic with you. In regards of changes, I wouldn't say we as a fintech, as a company who serves clients with financial services online, we see a slight increase of usage, but it's nothing that could be, extraordinary or not normal. We still maintain the same level of services, the same volume of services, of transactions. In terms of security, online businesses always, especially regulated businesses as we are, maintain the highest level of security possible and always complying with the highest standards. Here in Europe, we have PSD2, which allows us to use second factor authentication as a very important security measure. So it's just for us, it's probably the same as it was before pandemic in terms of security, because we need to comply always with the highest standards, always maintain, penetration tests. All the systems are always built to the best practices, and this is just how we operate as usual, online.
Okay, thank you very much. One brief question regarding the readiness. I mean, despite we all have been working several years within these the online meetings and working within some digital solutions, how did you find that there is no more space for the personal meetings, and there is no space of networking within the real meaning of networking, what we found out? So you're not attending, unfortunately, here, but as we found out within this event, it's a bit hard to see the too many participants within the list, and just to see just a few of them to be here presented. So it's very it's unusual even for us, for the tech guys. So how do you find your personal view on this, and how do you find, of course, when it comes to the inter-country and intercontinental collaboration and cooperation, it's okay, but when it comes to the same country, when it comes to the same city, and we see some speakers just connecting from the different even building within the 100 meters far away from that. So how did you find about the productivity and about the effectiveness of the overall process?
Thanks for the question. Basically, for us, it wasn't, at first it was a little bit shocking, that you cannot go and meet people in person, but then as we're an online business, we're used to working we don't have branches as banks. We onboard users online, we maintain relationships, we serve our services online. So for us, in that sense, it's business again as usual. Just maybe at first we needed to restructure the team. We needed to make sure everyone has remote places and stable internet connections to be able to work. So probably first couple of weeks were a bit different for us, and then everything got back to normal. We had some systems in place that would track productivity of our teams, and then we would analyze reports by the end of the week. And actually, the productivity was the same. So we cannot complain as a company that we had suffered some damages from this situation. So for us, it's pretty much the same. Just maybe now we meet less in person, and which is also a good thing. You don't spend time on travels. You can say, you stay in one place, and you can be even more productive, not distracted. So there are also a positive side of that you can find,
Thank you for your insight and for a comprehensive answer, and from seeing the positive way all the things what most of the people didn't find too positive, Thanks for encouraging all of us here, just to be expecting more and more positive things within this pandemic and the global lockdown. Thank you very much, and I would like to switch to our next speaker, who is, I already introduced him. He's Mr. Nikoloz Gagua, who's now the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Finance of Georgia. He has been served for several years within the state agencies in Georgia. He has been Deputy Minister of the Sustainable Economic Development of Georgia, and he has a very broad experience within the field, and it's a pleasure to have him here within this event. So, Mr. Gagua, please tell us within our short timeline and the up to 5-7 minutes, and I'm strictly warned from the organizers to give the directly 5-7 minutes to each speaker. But of course, after that, we will have the Q&A session, and we can address some of the questions from the audience, from online as well as the offline. So please, it's time for your talk and your insight within the digital financial solutions.
Thank you very much. Hope mic is working, right? Thank you very much, Giorgi, and let me express my
I'm going to Armushelps. I think it's not.
Is it okay now? Is it okay now? Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Giorgi. Thank you for this introduction, and of course, let me express my pleasure to be among these extraordinary panelists. And of course, the topic that we are discussing is, one of the most important, and today especially. I think that digital transformation is a very big process, I would say, even evolutionary process, and we are undergoing these processes. And of course, digital transformation is something that governments and authorities, and not only them, the whole society should catch up with in order to have effective business processes and so on and so forth. Well, when we are talking about this period, economic distress, and if during this time we can talk about what can be the opportunities of this period, that definitely digital transformation could be the only one, or the bigger winner in this situation. And yeah, I think that it's very important to materialize on this opportunity. Well, we mentioned we mentioned here that this period, of course, made some changes in the business processes at the Ministry of Finance, in the government, in our cooperation with international organizations, I mean, many different parties, and of course, I mean, definitely what I can say is that we are missing these individual face-to-face meetings, but of course, I mean, you cannot deny how much efficiencies these online meetings brought. I mean, sometimes, I mean, moving for one, I mean, several-hour meetings and taking night flight to there and so on. I mean, of course, you see the efficiency there, and sometimes you can be at the same time on several meetings. Of course, I mean, this is definitely something that can be considered as an opportunity during this system, and of course, we see the transformation in many sectors, like education, which could have been considered one of the, I mean, conservative sectors, maybe, I mean, in my opinion, in digital transformation. But for example, today, my kid started school, of course, digitally, and yeah, I mean, I think that it will have very positive consequences in the future. I mean, increasing all this literacy among kids, among everyone in the society. Actually, this will enable everyone to get more quality access to digital services, and definitely I think that from several years from now, I'm sure that we will be thinking how much this period contributed to that, if I may say so, because we understand that this is very difficult and terrible periods, and it's not easy to organize a classroom for a kid at home. So if you have several, again, it's more difficult. But again, I think that this can be considered as an opportunity, and of course, I mean, this period, of course, put several challenges, and I would underline several of them. For example, I mean, availability of the digital solutions is a challenge, but I think that market is very much adjusting to it, and we see really, I mean, many new solutions in fintech, in govtech, in, I don't know, education, in many services, and I think that it's a permanent shift. I mean, it will be a structural shift, and opening new opportunities for digital businesses and for existing businesses to have more digital and more digital components there. Of course, security is another challenge, and I think that I mean, we recently were analyzing the situation with cybersecurity in the government, and I mean, there's a challenge, and the problems actually increased by a factor of, I mean, something, I mean, significantly. So I think that is another challenge, but I don't think that the challenge is something that we cannot deal with it, and I think that even it can be easily, what I would foresee is that it can be easily transformed into another opportunity, into putting cybersecurity in a higher level, and we see it. I mean, at least on a local level, in an institution where I am working, that is happening, and these are important steps. And the third challenge, I would say, in the country like Georgia, is of course availability of high-speed internet. That's very important. There also, I think that we need to invest we need to put more money. And by the way, I think that we recently signed a very important project with the World Bank, which is internetization, and the internet high-speed internet actually should reach every village of the country. This is an objective which we are planning to achieve in, I would say, 2 years from now. Well, I think that in general, digital for digital transformation, there is more to come in next years, and it will be new opportunities. Of course, new opportunities also like for the government in providing the services, and one of the benefits that we can take out of them is that to come up with new solutions. There were, many different solutions, many different ideas hanging around, but I think during this period, the urgency of implementing those came up, and we hope for the better. And of course, we hope that in the first, we hope that this pandemic period will not have much worse consequences, and we hope that the vaccine is coming. We hope that people learned how to live with this virus, and we hope that this period will end soon. But we hope that there will be a very positive footprint of this virus, if I can say so. And this positive side, I'm sure, will be development in digital transformation. And it's very important, that government, private sector, the whole society to look at it more, and to take all these opportunities. So hope I was short enough, and let me stop here. And
thank you, Mr. Gagua, for very short but very comprehensive as well speech you delivered. Very good point. What I noted and what I found within your talk was that, and what was very interesting for me, that transforming the challenges into opportunities, which we already knew, and which is not something like the new thing, but now we face in practice how it has to be done. All these challenges within the security, within the functionality of the digital solutions, and within the business continuity, but we all knew that such kind of things are like the challenges, but now we faced in practice how these challenges really exist within our life, and how we are in the process to transform them into the new opportunities. And that was very interesting view from your side. Thank you for such interesting talk. And I would like to switch to our next very interesting as well speaker, Ms. Natia Gvazava, who have been worked for the National Bank of Georgia for 10 years as a head of the legal department, and under her leadership, National Bank managed and developed very interesting and very important changes within her direction. And she also now currently she works for the digital identity provider solutions provider and innovative company, Identomat. And she's a legal counsel at Identomat. So please, Natia.
Thank you, Giorgi. Dear audience, dear distinguished panel participants, it's an honor and privilege to be with you on the panel. Well, Giorgi already mentioned my experience in the public sector, which is bigger than I care to admit. It's been too many years. So now that I have experience that I have, it's not going anywhere, but I also represent the business that is on the other side of the regulation. I see many things from both perspectives, and I think that together with the digital transformation that has been ongoing for a certain while within the states, coronavirus definitely forced the hands of the governments, especially in the financial sector, to further the move that was already there. I think that it should be admitted that the upward push from the business to introduce more and more digital channels in the financial sector was there for a certain period. The regulators have been very cautious, and rightly so, because the fintech is, well, we will speak a lot about that during this panel. Fintech is accompanied with its challenges, but as I said, Corona forced the hands of the governments. Now the governments, the regulators, the businesses, they are faced with the reality where they have to be open, have to be more receptive of the changes, more receptive of the opportunities of digital transformation. And here is where new businesses come in with offering the services. And I think in this situation, for the government, for the public sector, it is important to provide fertile ground for the development of digital solutions, digital financial solutions. I will speak about safety and security in a minute, but first of all, the key thing that needs to be mentioned here, and it's important for a small market like Georgia, is that the government should strive to provide the ground for growing businesses and should shy away from being a competitor of a business, which in small businesses happens quite often, where the government starts to develop certain digital solutions on itself, while the business strives to take its place on the market. So I think that more and more competition should be encouraged in the businesses, and less involvement from the government should take place, especially in development of digital solutions. So, of course, the governments should have the leading role in developing regulations, in creating enabling frameworks for businesses, but it shouldn't in no way take the shape of a competition with the private business. The second component that I think is very important for fintech development in Georgia and in the world is something that I could never translate properly into English, which is not to kill all the sheep for the fear of wolf, which basically means that the regulation should be enabling, should create ground for the development of digital solutions for the financial market, but it should in no way be constructed in such a manner to kill a business, to kill the fintech before it's born, before it's developed. So, and this again leads me to the next point, where for financial market it is very important to know where the regulator is going, what is the view, what is to be expected, and to be sure that when they develop something, when the business is implementing certain solutions, to know for sure that tomorrow new regulation will not kill the solution altogether. So this is another important aspect for the financial technologies to develop in Georgia, and I think everywhere in the world. It is also, I think, important to be clear with the business that whatever is not prohibited is allowed. I think it's a regular civil law approach from a lawyer's perspective. It's something that unfortunately I have to say more and more frequently to my colleagues, because sometimes the approach is that it's not in the law, we cannot do that. It's rather the contrary. If it's not prohibited, then you can do that. So, yeah, of course, observing all the security and safety measures, which is the cornerstone of development of financial technologies in the future. And Another important point is for regulators and for financial business, as well as for the service providers like our company Identomat. It's important for them to have expertise and knowledge that would allow regulators and the business to speak the same language. Usually we expect significant expertise from the regulators, and in Georgia we are lucky to receive such a high level of expertise from the National Bank of Georgia. For us it's easy, but as a general point, the remark is that whenever someone regulates something, there should be enough expertise, knowledge and development on the regulator's side to understand the insides of the business. And the final remark that I would like to make on this point is that if the regulators again start to over-regulate financial technologies, it will mean that the demand for comfort that the fintech provides will eventually lead the customers in the direction of unregulated, unsupervised businesses, which again poses huge security risks. And well, I have nothing against virtual currencies, but I have to say that virtual currencies are the vivid example which shows that people are willing and ready to invest in comfortable technology which promises profits, which is not without its dangers. So if the financial technology is overly regulated, we might face the similar situation where the consumers will move to unregulated, untrusted solutions, which of course has security hazards and which will eventually undermine the trust in the financial technology altogether. So that's...
Natia is missing her previous job.
Well, we can discuss it later.
Thank you, Natia, for very interesting points of view and very interesting overview of the current situation within Georgia, all the financial and digital solutions within the financial sector. Yeah, it's a very crucial thing, and I would definitely agree with you regarding the last part, of course with the other part as well, but here I'm more strongly agree with you regarding the things for the digital currencies and the virtual currencies. Of course, all the things, I'm not against them, and of course these are good things for innovation and development, and we are trying to move all the things within the digital solutions, of course, but mostly the public awareness, not from even the providers, from the providers of these solutions, but from the customer side. We can't see the awareness about the danger and about how secure their currencies are. So people also all the time, and we face that people see all these currencies and all these virtual solutions when it comes to the virtual currencies just from one side, and they don't even think about, mostly they don't even think about how the different level of cybersecurity is needed for proper development and proper use of such technologies. So that's very important point I'm taking from your talk. So thank you for that. And I would like to switch on our next speaker, who's Mr. David Papuashvili, who is the Deputy Head of Specialized Risk Department at the National Bank of Georgia, and he currently oversees the operational risk and cybersecurity related topics within the Georgian financial system. It's very interesting. And now we will have kind of another point of view, because we started from Mr. Avidan, then we moved to the Georgian context with Mr. Gagua, who represents the government of Georgia. Then we switched to Ms. Natia, who represents the business and private sector for related within the digital solutions, and now we're coming to the regulator and regulatory body, and it will be kind of a full circle of the financial and digital solutions in financial sector. So, Mr. David.
Thank you, Giorgi. And hello, everyone. Again, my name is David Papuashvili, and I'm the deputy head of the specialized risk department at the National Bank of Georgia. I would like to thank the organizers of this forum for inviting us here today at this panel. Today I will talk to you about the financial sector, cybersecurity, and associated topics and issues amid our pandemic, the global pandemic that we have. Just to give you a brief overview as to where we stand, cyber risk is a systemic operational risk. It can have a significant impact on the financial stability of the economy itself and the financial system. The financial sector is critically dependent on other sectors of the economy, including the information technology sector, the telecommunications sector, and some of the other sectors, such as the transportation sector, for example. And as a result, communication between the different sectors of the economy, as well as the regulators, is of great importance. It is actually key to managing cybersecurity during these challenging times. So the Georgian banks overall, if we look at some of the recent trends, they are increasingly using digital technologies. Fintech is becoming more widespread, so various forms of financial technology is becoming more widespread. And remote identification processes, this is something that we have seen recently, is growing in importance. There is also a greater reliance and use of cloud services, something which did not really exist before, well, let's say 7 or 8 years ago in our nation. So there is a greater reliance on cloud services today. In terms of the regulatory background, the National Bank introduced operational risk requirements initially in 2014. The regulation for operational risk management was intended for commercial banks, and it is still intended for commercial banks. The regulatory requirements, they cover the operational risk management framework, but in addition to that, various forms of information technology requirements are also in place. In addition to information security requirements that we also introduced in 2014 for commercial banks. Now, our cybersecurity regulation was adopted in 2019, and the regulation is mandatory for commercial banks. The cybersecurity regulation, it's based on NIST, so the 5 main functions of NIST are covered and addressed in the cybersecurity regulation. So these include the identify, the protect, the detect, or recover, or respond and recover. But we also have included the SWIFT customer security program requirements, the mandatory controls within the cybersecurity regulation as well. Some of the recent developments that we have had internally at the NBG is the creation of a fintech department that is specifically responsible for dealing with financial technology and financial technology supervision. We also introduced a regulatory laboratory for financial institutions where the financial institutions can and they are allowed to test new financial services and processes. We now have an increased emphasis on financial technology. Also, there is an additional aspect in terms of trying to address more of the digital transformation types of issues, as well as cyber risk. We also have an ongoing project with XBRL for report automation, which will go live in 2021. So what we're trying to do now essentially is that we want to see more automated reports. Instead of receiving various financial and supervisory reports and let's say Excel, we're transitioning over to supervisory technology, or what is known as RegTech. So we'll be using XBRL over the coming months and over the next year or so. And within the context of our fintech, the fintech initiatives, we also do allow digital banking licenses, and we have this new project where we're open to granting digital banking licenses as long as certain criteria are being met. Now, in terms of our cybersecurity regulation and the requirements for board and senior management involvement, the banks must conduct trainings once per year for cybersecurity purposes, and this includes both the operational, the middle managerial, as well as the senior or the executive managerial levels. There is also an emphasis on the efficiency of the assessment of the cybersecurity program. We also do require additional information security audits for cybersecurity purposes, and there is also the additional requirement for conducting penetration tests. Now, some of the key aspects that we at the National Bank of Georgia look at in terms of the new products, new financial services that are being introduced, as well as the new information systems that are being introduced, include a process review. So when we receive information about a particular financial service, we review the process itself, and the topics that we might assess include the adequacy of the business process itself, so the design and implementation flaws potentially associated with a particular financial service or a business process, the use of third-party technology, for example, the use of outsourcing as well as cloud computing, and the associated risks. An additional aspect that we also do look at, this is business continuity. So we would look at whether the process is continuous and what is the potential for system disruptions or system outages. Some of the additional points for consideration, and this is something that we do look at as well, is the existence of penetration tests, especially for some of the financial technology services, the existence of vulnerability scans, and software reviews, whether some of the financial institutions as well as the companies offering financial technology services, whether they do conduct code assessments. So this is our approach in a nutshell. I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I'll be happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, David. As I already mentioned, it gives us, it already gave us the last node within the chain of the digital, the overview of the digital solutions within the financial sector, this time from the regulatory perspective. So it was very interesting and very comprehensive overview of the activities performed by the National Bank of Georgia. So thank you for that. And now we are open for the questions, and our guest speakers will be more than happy to answer any of them. So it's up to you. You can just raise hand and you can provide the question. Anyone? Okay, I will start then. I have the question. Actually, the question will be to Mr. David. The first question regarding the amendment to the law on information security, which we currently have here in Georgia. So, according to the draft law, what was the hearing in Parliament, like in these days and within this week, as we see, and what was published already within the draft law, the National Bank of Georgia will be one of the stakeholders. It have been the stakeholder, of course, but now they will be, you will be the stakeholder within the officially regulating the cybersecurity area of the private banks, the commercial banks, which we don't know which banks will be there. Officially, we're not aware of that, but how do you see what challenges and what changes will be for you and from your regulatory and supervision perspective, and how do you see what significant changes will be necessary and needed to be done to address these challenges? So of course you will be more aware, and you're more aware about the certain details of this draft law than the audience, and it will be very interesting. Just a brief key points of the challenges, what you currently see that the new draft proposes.
Mm-hmm. So that is a good question, Giorgi. From our perspective, I think the country itself needs an overarching framework for information security. And as you might know, our previous cybersecurity strategy has already expired, and it's important to have an updated version of our information security law. So this is something that is needed within our nation. On the other hand, we do see some challenges as to how the supervisory process might proceed with the introduction of the new amendments. For one, we have to introduce these additional requirements for commercial banks, which are closely aligned essentially with our NIST requirements that we have in our cybersecurity framework already. So that should not be much of a challenge, but we also have to define as to what constitutes critical infrastructure in terms of the financial system. So that is an additional aspect that we have to look at. And we have to look closely at this topic as to which organizations might be included in our critical infrastructure in terms of the financial system, and which organizations might not go into the or fall into the critical infrastructure.
Thank you. My another question will be for each of the speakers, actually. I would definitely want to have the just very brief insight from your side regarding the famous triangle what we have in cybersecurity, and I'll try to the way that I represent the Georgian Information Security Association. I want to push all the things from the cybersecurity perspective. So very briefly, I will start with Mr. Avidan, and also I would like to ask you the same question to you. We have the famous triangle. What we have is that each digital product, the digital financial product or any kind of product, have this triangle, which is the one point of this triangle is functionality. The other one is the ease of use, and the ease of usability of the product, and the third one is the cyber or information security. So each of you, I would like, because if you represent different areas and different directions and perspective, it will be interesting to see and to hear from your side which one you think. Of course, the ideal thing is just to be somewhere in the middle, but what do you think is the optimal way to consider all of these three verges of this triangle? I will start with Mr. Avidan.
Yes, thank you for a very interesting question. Basically, I would start from the user, and this is user is a cornerstone of any product. If the product is going to be user-friendly, if the user experience is going to be good, then the business will have revenue and will be able to develop itself. So I would definitely start from the user and see what tasks or goals are needed to be achieved And from there, it goes towards functionality, where the product itself is being built and the functionality is being considered and planned and developed. And of course, a huge attention should be paid towards cybersecurity, especially in the regulated business. And it goes basically by default when developing a fintech product. You need to pay a very, very serious amount of attention towards making it secure without sacrificing a good user experience. So I would say that in terms of priorities, it's very high, but in terms of business goals, it always needs to be a balance between not overthinking, because I can hear that a lot of work is being done towards regulating cybersecurity, towards solving cybersecurity issues, and we have a lot of also threats there. But at this stage, banks and fintechs are paying so much attention, investing so much money into cybersecurity, that I think we're good for now. Let's put it this way: we're good and we're safe in a sense, as long as we keep ourselves intact with the requirements and always, you know, manage the risks that come together with the cyber threats. So I would put it this way.
Thank you. Just we have just up to 2 minutes, and it will be spread to our next speakers, our 3 guests. So just your overview. You can choose any of them. It might be your personal opinion. It might be representing the organization or body you represent. So just my personal curiosity.
Do you hear me? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a difficult question, at least for me, because I mean, of course, all 3 are very important. But you asked a question to have an answer, right? And I think that I very much support Natan's views that sometimes there are impressions that over-regulation is exercised, and therefore sometimes if you have a situation when it is impossible trinity, let me say so, impossible trinity, sometimes over-regulations might hinder the progress. I mean, might hinder the so it will be very I mean, functionality, ease of use are critical, as well as cybersecurity, but of course you need to balance, and you need to avoid over-regulation. So that would be my question.
Thank you. Now David and Natia will try to sum up.
Okay, I do agree with Nika here. The thing is, we don't need too much regulation. We don't need over-regulation. I think we need more innovation on the one hand, and we have seen this recently with more innovative products that have been either introduced or are in the process of being introduced. But in terms of regulation, I'd like to emphasize this point again, that we do need some regulation, but this regulation should be principle-based, and it should not be rules-based. That's my view.
Great answer from the regulatory body.
Well, from business perspective at Identomat, we think that we provide all 3 pillars. Functionality is needed and demanded as we provide a distant identification platform. It's very easy to use, and I think that a growing number of clients is the evidence to that. Fortunately, and information security is something that we need to do, and we are paying a lot of attention to that, and this is the key to provision of our service. Otherwise, the business, well, if you lose each one of these pillars, it will cost you your clients as a business. So I think that all of 3 are important, and for businesses, they need to be observed.
Thank you so much for your comprehensive and overwhelming answer regarding from the different perspective. Yeah, that's the summarize the digital solutions, digital financial solutions, and the importance of that have been overviewed and have been overseen from the different perspective, thanks to our speakers, our offline speakers, and of course our online speaker as well, Mr. Avidan. So thank you again. Thank you to the organizers, to the strategist. Thank you to the team, and I think we are moving to another session, and we will give a floor to another panelist. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.